A controversial practice banned at the site of the largest natural gas leak in U.S. history. Why the risky procedure is still being used at other California sites.
All of us know that sometimes it's not all that easy to find a convenient parking or a trolley stop nearby.
The free program that may help San Diego drivers avoid circling around for the perfect parking spot, and the supporters who say taxi drivers don't have to worry about any competition.
And so when they found these vents in the absence of sunlight with, it looks like an oasis of life on the sea floor, it really transformed our understanding of how life is on our planet.
A close-up look at the deep sea, the academic project that signals a new era of discovery. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Governor Jerry Brown will hold off on a plan to merge the state's electrical grid with its neighbors. In a letter to state lawmakers and Western governors Monday, Brown says too many questions remain about how the plan will work. California energy regulators say sharing electricity could save on cost and help achieve renewable energy goals. But state lawmakers and environmental and consumer groups worry it could also mean California receives more coal power from other states. Brown says he will try to pass the legislation in January. A jury found California's largest utility guilty of obstructing investigators following a deadly pipeline blast. Jurors returned their verdict today against Pacific Gas and Electric. The blast of a natural gas pipeline in San Bruno County killed 8 people in 2010. It also destroyed 38 homes. Prosecutors say the San Francisco-based utility misled federal officials about the standard it was using to identify high-risk pipelines. PG&E says its employees did the best they could with ambiguous regulations that they struggled to understand. An update to a story first brought to you by KPBS partner iNews Source. We first told you about a controversial practice used by Southern California Gas. This was on the same day that one of its wells catastrophically failed at the storage site in Los Angeles County. Even though the practice is now banned there, iNews Source reporter Ingrid Lobet says it is still being used at other sites in California.
The cause of the largest natural gas leak in U.S. history has not been released. But on the day a well began shooting natural gas into the sky last October, Southern California Gas, owned by Sempra Energy, was using a practice that authorities in Texas say is not allowed there. They were injecting gas into a 63-year-old well through both its outer steel pipe or casing and an inner pipe or tubing. That removes a layer of safety and can expose the well to corrosion. California authorities say that's not allowed anymore at Aliso Canyon, but it's still allowed at 11 other natural gas storage fields in California. The State Division of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources has announced new draft rules for what's allowed at the fields where we store our gas for winter. They say those rules make it unlikely that companies like Sempra and PG&E will use the risky practice, but nothing would prohibit it. Comments on those new regulations can be made in writing or at a workshop Thursday in Woodland Hills. Ingrid Lobet for KPBS partner iNews Source.
A pair of brush fires that broke out along Interstate 15 have scorched about 24 open acres in San Diego County. Officials say the fire is 40% contained. It's spread along Gopher Canyon Road. CAL FIRE authorities say one southbound lane on Interstate 15 remains closed. Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine will visit San Diego this month. He's scheduled to appear at a fundraiser on the 20th. It's a private event. There's no word of any public appearances. California voters will have a chance to weigh in on bilingual education this fall. Proposition 58 calls on school districts to ask community members about how they should teach English learners. Supporters say this makes it easier for the school leaders to introduce bilingual programs for students who are learning English as a second language. This may also help other students learn a foreign language. Opponents say this measure may just bring back an ineffective program that was already rejected at the polls. More money is on track for California's high-speed rail project. The project connecting Northern California to Southern California is currently running over budget. Transportation leaders gave the green light to increase the state's funding by $35 million. The High-Speed Rail Authority will try a number of ways to save money. One cost-saving measure is using a so-called blended rail system. This is where the rails will be used by both bullet train engines and diesel ones.
The electrified system will allow Caltrain's commuter system to increase capacity, and by eventually adding high-speed electric trains in the corridor, it expands that capacity and even further connects the Bay Area much more effectively to the rest of the state and helps us complete the statewide high-speed system in a much more effective, cost-effective, and timely manner.
Authorities have committed over $700 million for the project in total, with most of the funding stemming from a 2008 voter-approved proposition. San Diego just made it easier to leave your car at home when you head downtown. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh explains the power behind the new program that lets you ride for free.
Anybody who has spent time looking for a parking downtown is really all about this announcement today.
The city is encouraging people to take public transit or, if nothing else, not endlessly drive around looking for that perfect parking spot outside the Balboa Theater. For those people, Free Ride Everywhere Downtown, or FRED, takes them that last mile to their destination. Supporters don't expect it will compete with Uber or taxis.
We see it as a very compatible transportation mode. Because of the short trips that it would generally generate.
Civic San Diego has put in $500,000 from parking meter revenues for the Free Ride program. They're run by New York-based Free Ride. 15 electric vehicles will hit the street initially. 20 are expected by the end of the year. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
The University of California has announced the embattled chancellor at UC Davis is stepping down. This comes after an independent investigation of Linda Katehi. Investigators found she exercised poor judgment and violated university policies. Katehi says she is returning to teaching. Katehi has been on leave since late April. Investigators were looking at her decision to retain an image consultant following a campus police pepper spraying incident in 2011. California legislators are taking a serious look at the risky side of beauty products. Lawmakers are considering 2 bills related to nail and beauty salons in the state. They want to educate consumers on the risks involved with using nail polish, coloring, chemicals, and other beauty products. The measure also calls for more robust labeling practices on the use of those products.
An old client of mine's who actually got a chemical relaxer when she was 3 years old. She 20 some odd years later got married, trying to have kids, unable to have children, had endometriosis, bad migraines and everything. Her doctor actually told her the migraines could come from the parabens that's in the products that she uses.
Activists say many nail and hair products are known carcinogens. They also say lax labeling standards are health risks to both consumers and salon employees. State environmental officials are asking Californians to do more to reduce food waste. Nationwide, about 37 million tons of food goes into landfills each year at an annual cost of $162 million. Scientists say it's not just food waste and money, but waste of water too.
You know, if you throw out a hamburger, that's the equivalent of taking a 90-minute shower in terms of the water that it took to produce that hamburger. And I think most people, when they're sitting down to eat a meal, don't really make that connection, and certainly don't think of the fact that they're kind of throwing away all those resources with food.
California law requires businesses to recycle food and green waste, and the federal government has a goal to cut food waste in half by the year 2030. A decade ago, California voters were promised $400 million worth of parks in some of the state's poorest neighborhoods. An Associated Press review has found that fewer than half of those parks got built. Bond money was awarded for 126 parks after a measure was approved in 2006, but officials say bureaucratic hoops have gotten in the way. The review comes as lawmakers push to add another $1 billion to parks programs. The oceans are the world's largest ecosystem, but have remained difficult to access for research. Now, the Ocean Observatories Initiative is working to change that. In tonight's Science Tech Report, we'll show you how the collaboration will usher in a new era of discovery under the sea.
While humans have explored land and space, the deep sea poses some of the greatest exploration challenges of the day. Funded by the National Science Foundation, the Ocean Observatories Initiative was created to advance oceanographic research and to explore this mysterious dark frontier.
So this is a bit like mission control on, in Houston, instead of going to space, you're going Inner space.
Initially. As a part of the Ocean Observatories Initiative, John Delaney and his colleagues at the University of Washington have developed a method of observing the ocean floor that could signal a real turning point for the field of oceanography.
So turning the level around.
I was very frustrated by the fact that we would be in the submersible Alvin on the sea floor 2 miles down, looking out the window, and we would be there for 5 hours, and then we'd have to come back up to the surface. So the idea was, if we had a permanent presence there, a way of being there continuously without being there, that was the major step forward.
This team at the University of Washington has designed and constructed a cabled array, a network of fiber optic cables placed on the sea floor that gathers data such as temperature levels and seafloor pressure, and that sends information back to the lab.
We're learning how to use basically a system that has 140 sensors on it. We have 5 senses, and we keep track of touch, taste, feel, smell. We're doing that offshore in a way that's never been done before by the people in the United States.
By using these data points and even photographic snapshots of the ocean floor, scientists are able to observe otherwise inaccessible underwater substances and occurrences.
You can track changes over time. You can say on January 1, let's have it 200 meters below every year or every month or every week.
The ability to design these systems to do both things, to track powerful transient events that take place that we never are able to follow because we don't have ships out there all the time. We can also program them so that they make careful measurements year after year after year after year that are comparable.
All right, are we? So this is probably one of the most common types of oceanographic sensors. It's called a CTD, for conductivity, temperature, and depth. So by measuring pressure, you can determine the depth, and the temperature and the conductivity will give you the salinity of the water. Okay. The first time we even had a seismometer on the seafloor, we powered it from the vessel to test it. Within about the first 30 minutes, this is about 3 o'clock in the morning on the vessel, we started seeing earthquake activity. So that was very exciting and very satisfying to know that the system was working and it was recording.
By using the cabled array to observe underwater volcanoes, not only do these scientists get a window into the dynamic ecosystems around these volcanoes' hydrothermal vents, but also a possible source for predicting earthquakes on land.
If we begin to understand the rhythms of underwater volcanoes or the rhythms of subduction zone dynamics, we will begin to get better insights into what the precursor events are that allow us to begin to anticipate changes that are taking place.
70% of the volcanism on the planet occurs underwater. I grew up by Mount Rainier, right? So I was always aware of volcanoes, but it never occurred to me that under the water was where it was happening.
Deborah Kelly, a chief scientist on the team studying underwater volcanoes, says they could provide clues about how life began on Earth.
One of the most profound discoveries ever made was hydrothermal vents, because until that time, the basic knowledge of our planet was that life was driven by the sun. And so when they found these vents in the absence of sunlight with it looks like an oasis of life on the seafloor. It really transformed our understanding of how life is on our planet, and now most people think that's where life started.
Getting to know the smallest organisms thriving on the vents may translate into better pharmaceuticals and perhaps even potential tools to combat climate change.
So these organisms live in perpetual darkness, no oxygen, they use CO2, carbon dioxide, methane. If you bring them up and stress them out, they produce different kind of antibodies. As our bodies become more resistant to tetracycline or penicillin, that maybe we could start getting medicines from the sea through these microbes. And then the other part is many of these cells have doubling times of an hour. So you can imagine a system where they take in carbon dioxide, which is it's impacting our atmosphere and the oceans, ocean acidification. So people are looking at some of these microbes to see if you could you sequester carbon dioxide using a microbial model.
While the potential applications of the data gathered from this cable array are wide-ranging, it's the interconnectedness of the data that Delaney says makes this project particularly effective.
If you only studied one part of the human body, that's the part you would understand, but you might not understand how it works for the entire human body. So at some level, you have to understand the entire system, and that's what the ocean is. It's our life support system on the planet. We need to understand all the pieces.
The data that these scientists are gathering is being shared with other scientists in the field and with the public.
Now we're looking at an international laboratory where anybody could have access to these data, and it doesn't cost them. Whole new sets of people can see what we're doing and play in that same world.
While the full impact of this project has yet to be realized, many argue that it indicates a watershed moment in the field of oceanographic research.
It's exactly what research is about, is posing a major question and then figuring out how you can get to the point where you can manage or understand the system better and better. And that's only comes from being present in the ocean. We've got to be there in the ocean 24/7, 365 for generations. That's the key.
That was Hari Shri Navasana reporting. You can see more stories like this one on SciTech Now, Sundays at 5:30 right here on KPBS. A warming trend is heading towards San Diego County this week. Molly Cochran has that in tonight's weather report.
Well, we have monsoonal moisture getting into Arizona, impacting the Tucson area. So if you have any travel plans coming up, could be looking at a few delays. Some of those showers expected to get into the Phoenix area. Now, some of this moisture is what is coming from what was Earl. And Earl hopped off the coastline, reformed into Javier. So just some moisture from some of those tropical features coming on up over the next couple of days. And that could produce some localized flooding for the interior sections of the region. But much of California staying dry and quite comfortable, especially along the immediate coastline. Yesterday, we were expecting that little dip in the jet stream to come in near San Francisco and produce some cooler conditions. Now, for tonight in the metro, we'll have an increase in cloud cover coming our way. Overnight lows staying in the mid-60s. Oceanside at 62 for an overnight low. Temperatures across the region really going to be staying near average for this time of year. And as we head into the middle half of the week, that's really what we can expect to continue. So it's going to be very seasonable across the Golden State. The interior sections, though, really going to be impacted by some wet weather. And we are worried about some localized flash flooding because we have to remember the ground here is very, very dry. So do exercise a bit of caution, but San Diego, LA, all looking good and staying quite nice. Some sunshine by the afternoon, but we'll have to deal with those low clouds to start things off. So if you are heading out early, maybe for a morning run, Wednesday into Thursday, some lower clouds, then some sunshine out by the afternoon. Temperatures going to be climbing into the mid to upper 70s, pretty close to where we should be at for this time of year. Then as we head into the upcoming weekend, some fog around for Saturday morning. And our daytime highs will come up into the lower 80s. So a few degrees warmer by the upcoming weekend here. Farther inland, temperatures in the lower to mid 80s. Some low clouds to kick things off, then sunshine. Looking great for the upcoming weekend, mostly sunny. And our highs here going to be in the mid to upper 80s. For the mountains, we'll be in the 70s for Wednesday and Thursday, then getting into the 80s for Friday, Saturday, even into the 90s by Sunday. So it's feeling quite hot with plenty of bright sunshine right through the upcoming weekend. Overnight lows stay in the 50s to lower 60s. For the desert, we'll have those daytime highs into the triple digits. Then take a look at this upcoming weekend. We'll be at 110 on Saturday with plenty of bright sunshine. Then again coming into the triple digits on Sunday with our overnight lows in the lower 70s. Molly Cochran, KPBS News.
He affectionately refers to his work as man knitting. A San Diego artist uses his craft to inspire others.
Up high in the sky, there's a discreet addition to City Heights.
Well, this one's a little subtle, but people do catch it out of their eye and go, hey, what's that? What's going on?
There are 8 of these wire silhouettes, 40 feet in the air, near Fairmont and Orange in Wabash University.
And I actually appreciate artistic ability. They are very creative. We always have different art projects going on here, so we definitely love it.
The wire sculptures are made here in a warehouse studio in Barrio Logan's art district. Spencer Little is the man behind the wire work.
A lot of people always look at the more tedious ones and say you must have such patience, but my reply is it doesn't take patience to do the things that you enjoy.
Little says it's a stress relief to turn off his brain and let his hands move in a therapeutic rhythm. He's been making and attaching these wire sculptures to street signs and light poles for more than a decade.
The most happiness I've caused in random strangers ever in my life has been leaving them out on the street. It's almost, the offering of fruit at the foot of Buddha. It's been this really pure, positive thing.
In turn, Little has caught the attention of art lovers, including a member of City Heights Business Association. Little hopes the commissioned project will inspire residents the way they've inspired him. Each piece represents someone in the community.
But it's finally bringing some brightness, some attention, some aesthetic to our neighborhood that's long been neglected.
The Chula Vista-based Parkview Little League will resume play in the West Regional Tournament Thursday, needing 2 victories to qualify for the berth in the Little League World Series. Parkview rallied for a victory over the all-star team from the Cactus Foothills South Little League yesterday. The team will face the Central East Maui Little League All-Star team on Thursday in the winner's bracket. A special summer vacation for disabled veterans in New England. A sports clinic showed them how to play on the water from kayaks to water skis. Associated Press reporter Walter Ratliff says these activities help them think more about what they can do.
4 decades ago, Raquel Arden fractured her neck while serving in the Navy. Today, she's going water skiing. Arden is one of about 50 veterans attending this sports clinic for disabled vets in Rhode Island. Her first try on the water is a remarkable step in a long journey.
Because of this, I know I could do just about what I set my mind to.
The program is open to veterans with injuries ranging from vision loss to amputations, spinal cord injuries, and mental health issues. During the week-long camp, they learn how to stay active through assisted water skiing, kayaking, cycling, and sailing.
A lot of veterans, when they're in the service, they live a very active life, and when they come into a situation where they become disabled, a lot of them focus on what they can't do now that they've been disabled. So this can be a life-changing event for them.
Recreation and the wheelchair sports made a whole difference in my life. Because I think it made the adjustment to being disabled a lot easier.
This is so much fun.
For Arden, it's been a lifesaver.
All these things that keep people alive, that keep you living, it makes you want to live.
This camp is modeled after the VA's National Adaptive Sports Program, in which veterans nationwide compete in games. In winter, the clinic swaps out summer sports for adaptive skiing and snowboarding. Walter Ratliff, The Associated Press.
A U.S. Olympic athlete is making history. Fencer Ebtihaj Muhammad is the first American to compete with a habit. She wears it to adhere to the tenets of her Muslim faith. Muhammad is ranked 8th in the world in her sport. She competed yesterday but did not make the podium. She will compete again on Saturday with the teens event. It's one of the spots in Rio to see and be seen with American Olympians. Associated Press' Adam Pebble takes us on the tour of the U.S. House.
At the 2016 Summer Olympics, one of the places to see and be seen in Rio is the USA House on Ipanema Beach. The first stop is the main meeting space where guests can relax and watch the games. It's become a home away from home for many of the athletes.
It was great. We haven't got a chance to spend time with our family, and we got to just relax and enjoy some time with them. For me, it's my mom's birthday tomorrow, so I gave her her gift, which was really nice.
And what used to be an indoor basketball and soccer area is now a large restaurant with a California theme. On staff are American and Brazilian chefs who serve up dishes of both cuisines.
Yeah, I think with our families rolling in, and they kind of had a private little event on the rooftop for us up there. It's beautiful. They've done a great job.
Upstairs, another focal point of the house is the Los Angeles 2024 exhibit.
So you can deep dive into any one of these specific venues if you want to learn a little bit more. So we'll go into downtown, and I'll show you LA Coliseum.
It is a state-of-the-art interactive model of the city promoters hope will create a buzz for LA's Games host bid. Last and certainly not least is the rooftop terrace. It's another chill-out space converted into a lounge with spectacular views of the beach and ocean.
The rooftop, I think, was the best, just because it's such a great view, and just, you know, the two top three athletes already. I mean, this is day 2, but it was a bronze medalist and silver medalist just hanging out, you know, on the roof with their medals. So it was kind of a very cool, casual experience. So,
but the house isn't open to the public. It's by invitation only, usually extended to athletes, their families, VIPs, and donors. Adam Pemble, Associated Press, Rio de Janeiro.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.